A YouTuber fulfills his lifelong dream of becoming a director, and now we all get to suffer. Welcome to Creepin' It Real. Thanks for joining me. I am Judah. We're going to be talking about Chris Stuckman's SHELBY OAKS. I didn't know much about this movie when I went to go see it. In fact, the truth is, I went home on Friday, sat down in my bed, and knew that my whole night would consist of nothing but me sitting there watching movies, and I didn't like the idea of that. I hopped on my phone and saw it was playing at my local cinema, so I decided to go sit on my butt at the cinema and watch movies all night. Felt a little better than just being in my bed. Literally, all I did was read the title. I didn't read the synopsis at all. I knew nothing about this movie. I go there, I'm sitting down, watching it. It starts, and I'm like, oh, it's a found footage movie. Hooray. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I guess I already paid for this, and let's just sit here and watch it. As it continues to go, I'm like, oh, you know what? This may be more tolerable than just any kind of found footage. It felt like they're going to go the Mungo Lake type. Is it Mungo or Mongo? I think it's Mungo. You know, this fake documentary type thing. And I was like, you know, I can deal with that. That's a little more tolerable for me than just the found footage type stuff. But then what you come to find out that it isn't a full found footage movie. It's like a hybrid. It has, the setup is found footage, but then it goes into what you might call a more standard type movie, where they don't try to make it feel like it's something that is real. It goes into a full-on movie. And I got to tell you, it worked for me from that angle. Chris Stuckman, who actually is a YouTuber who reviews movies, wrote and directed this movie. It was crowdfunded. At the time, it had the largest crowdfunding of any movie. Let's keep in mind at the time. Neon saw it, and they gave him more money from what I understand, and he was able to finish up some stuff. When you look at it from that angle alone, this is quite an achievement, and Chris needs to be applauded for this. At no point did I go, oh, this is like a crappy, independent, low-budget film, making it look that well on a crowd-funded budget. And again, Neon did throw in more. I can't remember. I think it ended up being, the budget was like maybe $2 million. I'm not real familiar with Chris. Some channels that I watch complain that he will only post reviews for movies that he praises. If his whole opinion is that you shouldn't review movies that you don't like, then I'm like, maybe I should do him the same favor. We call it pulling a Stuckman. Let's check out this trailer, and then the gloves come off.
I'm so scared. Do you need help?
She finally let me go.
Okay, there are two things here. Now that I'm watching this trailer, I remember seeing this trailer about a year ago. I don't remember. I was seeing some movie in the cinema, and I remember seeing this trailer now. But I had completely forgotten about it. This right here was the very first thing in the movie that I was like, what the heck? If you gathered, some guy just shot himself in front of this woman, and his blood and brain matter are splattered all over her face. This seems like it's, you know, early afternoon when this happens. Then, like, the cops come, they take the body. You know, you see the day progress to nighttime. This whole time, never once does she clean the blood off of her face. I'm like, dude, blood gets splattered on my face. Now, granted, they did just show that she sees something in this guy's hand, which takes her mind away from the absolute horror that just occurred. But I'm telling you, if that much blood got splattered on my face, as soon as I recover any kind of like sanity, I'm cleaning my face off. She sits there the whole night. You're telling me that nobody, even when the cops come, I'm assuming they may have taken photos of her face just to, for evidence to show the blood splatter pattern or whatever. But you can't tell me at no point somebody said to her, you should probably go clean that off your face. You don't know what kind of diseases this man had. Nobody? The whole day she goes without washing this off. In fact, she ends up doing something. I don't want to spoil it for you. She ends up doing something. And then she's like really overwhelmed by it. And she brings her husband into this experience. After that, he grabs her and pulls her in. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, that's being a good supportive husband. But I got to tell you, my feeling when he grabbed her and pulled her head to his chest is I was like, ew, 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 ew. Babe, I love you. I want to comfort you right now. I want to be able to embrace you in this sorrow. But you have got to go wash your face. Please wash that off of your face. Please change your shirt. I understand this is traumatic, but my Lord, please, just, God. Anyway, that was my first criticism. I guess technically my second, because my first criticism was, great, this is a found footage movie. Anyway, back to the movie trailer.
Welcome back to the Paranormal Paranormal.
Blood still on her face. I'm actually, at this point, I wish they would have just committed to the bit and her not washed throughout the whole movie. That would have been truly visionary on Chris's part.
Today we're taking our first foray into the abandoned town of Shelby Oaks.
I've been searching for Riley
I'm really surprised I didn't say from YouTuber Chris Stuckman. But whatever.
for the last 12 years. I know my sister's not dead.
Bodies were found outside of Shelby Oaks. Riley Brennan is still missing.
The last night I saw her, she said she saw a man standing in her window, staring at her. Yeah. You live alone out here? Nope. Where is my sister? Riley.
Okay, let's get into it. I'm not going to lie, I didn't hate this movie. There we go. I said it. Now, if you go online, it seems like this movie is getting a lot of hate. And I'm kind of wondering if it's only because that Chris was a YouTuber. He still is. I'm sure he's not going to just ditch his channel and ignore that. I'm wondering if there's a lot of jealousy involved in this. And I could be wrong, but I'm jealous. I wish that I could be a director. I mean, that's not totally true. There was one time when that was something that I kind of was hoping would be my life's path, to be involved in creating movies. It wouldn't even matter. Just someplace in movie creation, I wanted to be involved. But here I am, now I'm just reviewing horror movies and doing YouTube. And Granted, that is not what I ever saw in my future, but this is where I am. So I'm wondering if a lot of this criticism is coming from potential jealousy or feeling like there is some kind of like hypocrisy from the fact that Chris, only from what I know, kind of refuses to review movies that he's going to not like. And that's where I feel like most of it. But that doesn't mean that this movie is without criticism. There are several jump scares that I feel are unwarranted and not necessarily deserved. Not only that, as I already mentioned, the whole blood thing, never washing it off, there are several incredibly stupid decisions by this main character. I mean, she is going off to these places that she knows potentially could be dangerous, and she doesn't care. She's just so obsessed with finding out what happened to her sister that she throws all wisdom out the window. She goes to this old penitentiary, and this is another criticism. Now, the shot looks nice, but here's my preference. She pulls up to this penitentiary. You see this huge, prison, nice, big, cool-looking gates. It was nicely framed and shot, but it felt like it came from, the PS4. And when it is a video game and you see it, you can be like, wow, that looks really good. And you can appreciate the framing. You can appreciate the lighting. And that's awesome. But when it's in a movie and you think, oh, that looks like a video game, that's not so great. But that doesn't take away the fact that the framing and the shot looked nice, but it clearly just stuck out as, oh, that's so CG. That looks so much like a video game. And I don't even know if it was, but my feeling is that it more than likely was CG. So this woman makes these stupid decisions. And then there are times when she goes into situations and he tries to make her feel like she's not stupid. She goes into this woman's house that they showed in the trailer, and she's looking around and she's hearing noises and stuff, and she's feeling uncomfortable. And he wants to show that, this need to find her sister, or at least have some kind of closure, is driving her. And so most of us would be like, oh no, I'm out of here. Whereas she's compelled. But he wants to give her some kind of sense of smarts. So as she's following this old lady, she sees like a knife in this roast. And she slyly grabs the knife and kind of hides it on her person. And, that gives you kind of like, okay, at least she is aware of the danger that she's in. And she's going to try to protect herself in some way. But then the movie goes on, and it is very intentional on showing you that she sets the knife down. Not only is it intentional in showing you that she sets the knife down, it is very intentional in showing you that she doesn't pick it back up. Now, that would make sense if it got to some point where you're like, oh, that knife would have been really helpful right now. But there never is. So that whole scenario doesn't even make sense. It's like they want you to know that she's not stupid, she's getting a knife, but then they want you to know she set it down, she is stupid, and she didn't pick it back up. But it didn't go anywhere. There was no point where you're like, oh, if she only picked that knife back up again. Now, granted, I got the, great, now we're going to see a scene where we all go, if only she picked that knife back up again. But that never came. So it seemed like a very pointless effort to make that something that's clear to the audience. I didn't understand that. Now, does it diminish the movie? No, it doesn't. But if I'm here trying to find things that I appreciated and things that I thought were silly, that's something that stuck out as silly. As I mentioned, I didn't hate this movie. there are moments when I legitimately felt creeped out. At this time, I've seen so many horror movies, and I know all horror fans, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They don't scare me anymore. I don't get scared. This one gave me creepy feelings. The unknown in the dark. What's out there that I can't see? What's out there that could cause me danger, but I don't know. It's just lurking out there. It was that kind of a fear. Also, the fear of loved ones being taken, that kind of a thing. And granted, he did a pretty decent job with that hiddenness, the creepiness, the not fully knowing, allowing your imagination to create the fear for you. But then it gets exposed. And instead of it being hidden, it gets brought into light. And as soon as it gets brought into light, it fell apart for me. I no longer cared anymore. The whole fear just left me because it was presented too clearly. It almost was, the best example I can give is like in Hereditary, which was another creepy movie. And then at the end, you see this floating headless body, and it was just like, oh my God. It just came off so stupid. And that is the same vibe I got from this movie. So I'm going to land at a 5 out of 10. And I don't think you need to go to the cinema to watch this. This is a perfect Shudder original. This is where it should have been. And stumbling across it and being pleasantly surprised would be great. But it is just kind of a mid-level horror movie that does suffer from tropes. The same tropes that most of us as critics, and I really don't even put myself in that category because I'm just a guy. I never went to school. I just watch movies and I point out the things that I like to nitpick about and the things that I liked. But I would think that Chris would consider himself a legitimate critic. And these are kind of things, the jump scares or the stupid decisions, these are things that as critics we harp on. And so it is a little weird to see that he stumbled in those same areas that us who like to talk about movies also often point out. So don't write this movie off, guys. I would give it a try. I wouldn't go see it at the cinema. I would wait when it hits streaming and I would check it out. I think the main actress does a legitimately decent job. Again, for this being an independent film, I did not know that. I watched it. I was like, this fits, the scope of what might be on Blumhouse. I felt everything with the effects. It was all, within that $2 million range. Nothing was quite offensive to me. I mean, there are some spots, like I mentioned, with the truck driving up to the penitentiary. But overall, I would have never picked this out as being an independent film. Low budget, backed by a major studio. That's what I would have picked it out. And granted, it did. In the end, it was backed, but then, Neon came up and gave some extra money. But it looks pretty decent. And when it comes on streaming, I do think if you're a fan of that type of found footage, Mungo Lake type, quasi, documentary type thing, then I would give it a try. Please like, subscribe, and share. And if you have movies that I should check out, please leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to check them out. If you have strong feelings about Shelby Oaks, I want to hear from you. I want to know your thoughts. I don't know. I don't care what you really think about Chris Stuckman, because other movies, I don't highly harp on the director. It just was so interesting to me. Because when I watched this movie, I didn't really have a whole lot to say about it until I found out that it was directed by Chris. So if you've got strong feelings about this movie, you want to talk about it, you want to tell me what it is you thought was done excellently or what you thought was like a cardinal sin that nobody should ever make, please leave those in the comments. I'll definitely read them and I will respond. Again, thanks for watching. I'm Judah. This has been Creepin' It Real, and I'll catch you later.